subconscious cues for moods. So every time the story would describe something as orange in Dune, it meant there was danger imminent. Or yellow, I think, was another one. I mean, those colors, I guess, come out a lot in the desert. But yeah, to specifically say orange, and then your brain thinks orange, and then you know that something violent is about to happen. I found this first email that gives a very short description of what the art director wanted, if you'd like me to read it to you.
Yeah.
It says, cover should feature the older Tane cedar in immaculate charcoal gray suit, a single-breasted 5.5 button front with full climate, a blade stop liner, and the latest communique with water shears. And then it has a long quote from the story describing the water shears, and it says he's cutting a stylized thread, possibly including yarn pulls on cedar's other hand, and then it gives a description of the yarn pulls. Overall aesthetic should be decadent, high-fashion German expressionism meets Alexander McQueen meets Klaus Nomi. See attached photos of Gerhard Demet's sculptures for further ideas. So yeah, they gave me a lot of clues about other artists to look at, and then some specific quotes from the story to give me references for like what the props would look like. Actually, what did you think of how I did the water shears?
They were cool. They were not quite as I imagined, but you got something right that I didn't think about, and I forget what that was. It was about how maybe the scissors would close and that thing would attach, because I think I had imagined it attached. There was like an extra kind of a water storage tank, and I was imagining it somehow attached in a different part of the blade. But then when I thought about it, I decided I don't think you could close the scissors the way I'd kind of imagined it. So I felt like, oh, he fixed that up for me. But I don't think it was described in the book wrong. It was just my own image of it. So I thought that was very good.
Cool. Yeah, well, the book description has, basically it mentions that there are small holes in the blade. I think that the steam or water comes out of, and that there's an egg-sized tank of water. And yeah, then I kind of had to figure out where to go from there. And actually, since like that was going to be a focus of the painting, I went to a fabric store and got the biggest pair of shears I could get for like less than $20, and some actually it was a craft and fabric store, so they had some other things. They had like these wooden eggs, so I got some wooden eggs, and then I took some pieces from some model cars and glued them all together and spray painted it gold to use to take photos of, so that I would have some really realistic reference material. So yeah, I still have the gold water shears here.
Ooh, you
they look
do?
pretty much like the painting.
Ooh, could I get a photo of that?
Oh, sure, yeah.
And how much do you want for them?
Well, yeah, I'll send you a photo and we can figure it out. But yeah, I actually thought someday I didn't know if maybe I would be able to run into you at a convention or something, but I'd have to show you these.
Oh wow, that would be really cool. Yeah.
And they actually they cut still. They still open and close and cut paper and everything just fine. So.
Oh, you mean they're not the actual working water shears with a high pressure water?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, you couldn't break down any doors with them.
No. The letter that they've sent is in some way closer to what I imagine, in that they would give you just here's a couple descriptive paragraphs. That's what I imagined you probably got. One, but they also have like other artists and references. much more
Yeah.
elaborate. I'm impressed.
Oh yeah.
Is that typical?
This is actually my first book cover job, and I was impressed with like referencing Alexander McQueen and Klaus Nomi. I thought that was cool, and usually in other things I've done, they haven't gone that route.
But I read that you have done stuff for Heavy Metal magazine and other.
Yeah, I've done a few jobs for other things, but yeah, this is the first book cover, so that was a big deal for me to get it, because really in the like science fiction illustration world, that's really, I think, the job that you think of as the coolest. The whole reason that's what science fiction illustration is, it's doing book covers.
Well, let me say congratulations.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was, and I was really happy too, because I didn't know, what kind of jobs I'd be getting when I was first starting out with book covers, and to get something that to me was like a great piece of science fiction that was unlike something else that I'd read was really cool, and felt like it could be like the start of like the seed of a new genre or something. I thought that was really cool.
Wow, I just want to come over and hug you right now.
I don't know if in your podcast how much you've talked about yarn, but I could actually ask you a question or two, maybe.
Sure, go ahead.
So, how much of a science fiction reader are you, for one? Because the one thing that I really liked about the book was that it almost felt like it was like written by like an outsider to the genre, sort of. It didn't have a lot of cliches, and it had so many new ideas that came like really fast, one after the other. So yeah, I was just wondering if you come from science fiction, or if you come from something else and you're sort of applying it to science fiction.
See, I didn't think of myself as a science fiction reader. I just was interested in what appealed to me. Some of that, a good portion of it was on the edge of science fiction. Like one of my favorite authors is a Japanese author, and I always get his name backwards. Kobo Abe. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He wrote things like Secret Rendezvous and The Boxman. And they're...
Did he write the... I read a book by a Japanese author that was kind of surreal, and I always forget his name, but it was called something about Cuckoo Land. It's embarrassing. I can't remember the title of the book.
You may be thinking maybe Murakami?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've read him too.
There was a surreal quality to your book that kind of reminded me of that. Maybe it's just a Japanese thing.
Well, when I was a teenager, I wanted to be a painter.
Oh, okay.
I was a big fan of Matisse, but when I would try and copy him, they'd always end up, when I was starting to get my own voice, they kind of always ended up with a surreal edge, like the table legs, half of them would be gone. But it would be kind of a Matisse flavor, but with something decidedly a little bit Magritte at the same time.
Yeah.
So, and then I decided I wanted to be a filmmaker and wrote some bizarre or unmakeable screenplays. And then in college thought, well, I'm never going to be a real, filmmaker. No one will give me the money to do any of this. And this was before YouTube.
Yeah.
So I never thought of doing it myself. So I thought, well, I'll just start writing. And then I wrote and was having a lot of trouble. And I started writing Gray, I guess right out of college, and had a lot more fun with it than some of the other more mainstream things I was trying to write. And I just kept going back to it and learning on other projects and coming back to Gray and improving it. And I think it's the science fiction kind of stuff gives me a freedom to make up stuff, I guess. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think I've ended up writing it. I'm less concerned with the labels. I just does it appeal to me, and do I get something out of it? That was the way I would approach the library or bookstore.
it seems like a lot of people who get into science fiction really they cut off everything else, they sort of become insular in a way that this book didn't feel that way. So, like, you could read it without having steeped yourself your whole life in science fiction.
Well, thank you. I think that's a compliment.
Yeah, no, it's good. No, it works. I mean, and I am a person who is heavily steeped in science fiction, but I like reading all different kinds of things, so I liked it.
I saw some of your other illustrations. Some were, just of people and things. Mm-hmm. But some were clearly some science fiction. There was a big muscular guy with like wires coming out of him. And
so that was a piece I did at a workshop called Illustration Masterclass, which we sort of a bunch of aspiring illustrators and working illustrators, and actually artists who have all different kinds of levels in being a professional. Some of them are still in school, and some of them have been working for a few decades. Get together and paint, and so that was my crack at a sort of a sample for a book cover with a theme of like a science fictional Beauty and the Beast.
I remember when I first heard your name, and I of course went to Google, and I didn't, I was having trouble finding very much except for some paintings.
Yeah.
So now I understand.
Yeah, but in my gallery stuff, a lot of my main influences have been from science fiction imagery, either from like ideas I would get while reading like William Gibson stories, or just like I can't even describe how much of an influence Blade Runner is on my aesthetic. So I kind of paint real people, and I keep them in reality of like our reality, but I feel like there's a science fiction element to that still, and kind of like I'm trying to get like a noirish mood also.
I see all of that. I was showing my wife some of the stuff earlier today, and it's not hyper real, but something is like off, like something has changed a little bit. It's like the universe is still constructed as if in a way that we recognize it, but the molecules are all backward. That's the kind of the feeling.
Cool. Well, that's great. I just had a show in October, and a lot of people who walk in off the street, they keep talking about how they think it looks really real, or some people even say it looks photographic. So, but yeah, to me it doesn't look photographic, and I think that's cool that you saw that.
A couple of months ago, I'd mentioned to the guys at Nightshade that I wanted to interview you for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And his comment to me was, only when the cover is done. Don't talk to him. I don't think, it's a reflection of my personality, but I guess they really try and keep the author out of it. That
Well,
muck it up.
It's definitely not you. It's just it's just and the thing is.
Is it you? Is that what you're trying to say?
No,
it's not me.
No, it's just a thing. It's just a, I think a business, like a practice of the publishing world that I think it does make sense, and it does seem